Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines here. SEC Gary Gensler caught red-handed, and the dark side of crypto creeps into Congress. We're going to give it to you. And reason 1,000,001, the SEC is known that XRP is not a security, and it's on their own website, and I'm going to show it to you. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.26 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1%. Good morning, everybody. Bitcoin now 28,700 plus. Quite a retracement here over the last few days after being over 30,000. Ethereum now back under $2,000 this morning at 1963 and change. 81.5 plus billion for Tether market cap. We're going to talk about that today, and you're going to want to hear it. And right now, 49 cents for XRP. We'll see what's going on here. We are off by 0.9% on the 24-hour. It is official, ladies and gentlemen, and we are proud to announce that Ray Fuentes is going to be the official MC for the first ever XRP Las Vegas 2023. This is going to be an incredible event, and in no small part because Ray Fuentes from Link2 family is going to MC the event for us on the day. I'm telling you, we have more good news. You can now even know the VIP Friday and signing up for our group is currently sold out, and it will not open up until the day of the conference. But here we have this. Saturday sold out, Friday sold out, but we have gotten so much information, messages, just really overwhelmed. I want to come, but it's sold out. How can I participate? We've set it up for you. You can get a web ticket right now. Click this button and get your web ticket for the conference. We will be cutting this off just because we have to organize it for the live feed when it happens. So don't wait around. Get your ticket. Make sure you have it. You're going to love what's going on for the Saturday conference, and you're going to see an incredible lineup of super special people and projects in the XRP Ledger ecosystem. Right here we start with it, ladies and gentlemen, and it's caught red-handed. SEC Chair Gary Gensler blamed crypto on Signature Bank's failure, but remember, we covered that, but the New York Department of Financial Services Superintendent, Adrian Harris, refuted that, and you're going to hear it right now.
Well, if I could just note something about you mentioned you're hearing about the recent events in the markets, and I would note there were 3 banks that failed in those handful of days, those 4 or 5 days. And 2 of those banks, the first and the third that failed, Silvergate and Signature, were engaged in the crypto business. I mean, some would say they were, crypto banks. So it's interesting just how this was all had some crypto narrative as well.
It is a misnomer that the failure of Signature Bank was related to crypto. What we saw with Signature Bank is that it had a new-fashioned bank run, and the outflow of deposits were from a broad depositor base, including wholesale food vendors, fiduciaries, trust accounts, law firms. And in fact, the outflow of crypto deposits were in exact proportion to their representation in the depositor base overall. And in fact, some of those deposit outflows were actually pre-planned. So it's, of course, unfortunate that there was a run on the bank at Signature prompted by what we saw with SVB, but it is not the case that the failure of Signature was related to crypto.
Oh boy, the plot thickens right there. Gary's been caught. Not the only place he's been caught. Let's take a look at this. Now, obviously, we reported that Stuart Alderati was over in London working on expansion for Ripple on the other side of the pond and made the comment that he missed the hearing itself. And he said he's in London spending time with the team focused on growing the business. But he can't tell you how inept the SEC looks from that side of the pond. Well, listen to this clip right here. You need to hear it.
A key factor in this competition is whether the country has a clear regulatory framework, which the United States currently does not have. The European Union just provided this clear regulatory framework through its markets and crypto assets regulation. And we're already seeing digital asset firms move jobs and capital to European jurisdictions as a result. Have you considered the impact that the policies you've furthered as chairman of the SEC will have on digital asset firms leaving the United States? If so, what's your assessment of that impact? Does it align with your statutory duty to facilitate capital formation in the United States?
Our duties is to protect the investors and the issuers to access the capital market. And if there's so much non-compliance, then people will have lower trust in our capital markets, could hurt the rest of our capital markets.
Chairman Gensler, if you're regulating by enforcement action versus having a clear regulatory framework, I'm not sure how there can be the certainty necessary.
If I could say, we have a clear regulatory framework built up over 90 years. It's just a bunch of intermediaries in this market that think they have a choice. They don't have a choice. They're non-compliant generally, and they need to come into compliance.
Given that your own statements have vacillated, Chairman Gensler, I think it's clear that the lack of clarity on this issue hasn't done anything to help this industry thrive in the United States. There's a constant threat of regulation through enforcement by your agency, and that has driven innovators and those who want to play by the rules elsewhere.
It absolutely has. And evidence of that right here. Great job, Gary from Wolf of Wall Street. Shout out to him. Coinbase gets Bermuda license, plans to launch offshore exchange in the coming days, actually. They could be live almost immediately. Great job, Gary is right. You know, going back to what Gary Gensler said here, and I'm not going to play it again, but going back to what he said about we've had laws for 90 years, well, then why is it that Coinbase, who has done everything they can to be compliant, right? Even delisted XRP out of fear very quickly, by the way, IPO'd, had that approved by the SEC, and you're turning around and suing them anyway. But there's clarity. If there's clarity, how could you even be suing Coinbase because you're the one that gave them a pass? You know, it's embarrassing. It is despicable, in fact, to watch this man run this agency. The UAE, however, is beginning to issue a new crypto license process to speed up things, and a lot of that's based around virtual asset service providers and accepting license applications for that, and that really is based around payments, and everything revolves around payments, whether we're talking about the fiat world, paper world, or the digital world. The EU Parliament approves crypto licensing, funds, transfer rules, but yet we're stuck here with the melees, and we've got Gary Gensler, the guy who had all the clarity when he was at MIT teaching, but now all of a sudden his clarity is everything's a security, he's a hammer, and everything's a nail. Well, you're about to see evidence in just a second that proves clearly the SEC absolutely knows definitively, without argument, that XRP is not a security from their own website. But a couple things keep an eye on here. One is Bitcoin wallet from the Satoshi era, dormant for over 9 years, has been reactivated. It is holding 6,071 Bitcoin valued at $178 million. It is not my wallet. Keep an eye on it. You better keep an eye on this too, all of us. Watch and listen closely to Warren Davidson talk about USD Tether is a ticking time bomb. Have we not been saying this? Is he watching the channel? Because we've watched this guy go from saying XRP was a security, Ethereum was fine. Now he's been in this space. He's gotten enough attention from everybody in the know that now all of a sudden he's asking Gary Gensler to say in a hearing whether XRP is a security or not. And now USD Tether is the problem we've all known it to be. And make no mistake about it, crypto isn't sorted out until we know where the U.S. government stands on USD Tether. And now the question's being asked in congressional hearings.
Mr. Campbell, Tether is the largest stablecoin in the ecosystem, and it's headquartered in Hong Kong. What does that mean for the stablecoin ecosystem that Tether is located offshore? And how has Tether become such a large player in the space?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would say, one, Tether has become a large player because they had a first mover advantage. They started in 2014 before other stablecoins, and that just speaks to the problem of inaction when people can't move elsewhere. You end up with entrenched incumbents. Two, Tether has not faced the same kind of regulatory uncertainty. They don't have the concerns that others do about having to conform with something relatively strict and relatively demanding like the NYDFS guidance, which, by the way, I greatly support, having worked in that space as well. That keeps consumers safe. They're not transparent. It's unclear if they've always had all the reserves, and it puts people at risk. But when they are the default option because others are being hamstrung, it's what people use because there's demand for dollars on a blockchain. And so I think it's there just because it's been available.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, and thanks for your clarification. I guess I would say I've felt at times that because they don't have the transparency and disclosure requirements, I've at times referred to it as a time bomb because we have clarity in New York, but we don't have clarity into Hong Kong's market. And frankly, the move to Hong Kong is a step in the right direction because for a while it wasn't even clear that they were accountable even in Hong Kong. So hopefully Tether's stable as purported to be, but I think the real opportunity for us is for this body to create legal clarity. And look, we hit Chairman Gensler pretty hard.
Yeah, we get it. But I tell you something, hopefully is not a question that you want to hear for sound business. Hopefully. There's regulations for things like this. I'm going to remind everybody again that USD Tether is selling a digital version of the only product that the Federal Reserve has. It's a US dollar. And they don't share their reserves? Okay. Watching closely. Now let's watch this closely. Reason 1,000,001 XRP is not a security, and it's on the SEC website. Credit to Ratha Kahneman and Crypto Nim for bringing this out. It's the SEC filing for Tranglo and Ripple. With it, remember, Ripple owns like 40% of Tranglo, I think it is. There was a summary of on-demand liquidity, which uses XRP for settlement, proving the SEC has known that XRP is not being used as a security in any way whatsoever. I'm going to give you this right here. And as he said here, outstanding, a summary of ODL agreement between Tranglo and Ripple buried in the SEC disclosures. No earth-shaking news, I can see it, but it's significant to have real legal documents to consider. Oh, it's significant. In the documentation, it says recipient acknowledgement on the SEC Edgar filing page website. XRP does not represent a right to make any demand on Ripple. Ripple has no obligation to redeem or exchange XRP for monetary value, goods, services, or any other item. And Ripple is not responsible for any use by recipient or any third party of any XRP that Ripple has delivered to the recipient and the XRP terms under these XRP terms and conditions. Boom. Somebody get this to Judge Torres immediately. This is the site on the SEC Archives Edgar database. This is it. It says it all right here. And there's the highlight too. I tell you, what in the world are we watching when you could put a company through $100 million plus at this point, I'm sure, in attorney fees and time wasted and spent because the SEC wants to. They're the bully in the schoolyard, when in fact the information that clears the whole matter is sitting on their website. I might go see a play this weekend. This is like bad theater right here. I mean, when is Ripple going to be released from the jaws of the SEC so they can have the opportunity for adoption in the United States the way Ethereum has, and they did an actual unregistered ICO? Something is very amiss here, and I think the answer lies within the doors and hallways of the SEC. I'm just glad that Ripple has the coffers to be able to fight it all. That's going to do it for me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.